Burnout impacts healthcare costs more than you think. See, sometimes we don't slow down long enough to think about the connection between mental health symptoms, physical symptoms, and our healthcare insurance costs. But burnout does lead to that increase. And so I want to share a little bit about why that is and what I have seen in my career as a leader in the behavioral healthcare field. And one of the things that I have seen as to why burnout leads to higher insurance costs is because stress has a direct impact on our physical health. And what I mean by that is when we try and function in a state of chronic stress, so our stress response, instead of sitting at our baseline, rises higher and we're constantly up here, our body is functioning in fight or flight. It's the same response, whether it's a safe situation or not. It's the same response on your nervous system. But what happens is the longer we're functioning in that higher state of stress, our body diverts its energy and blood flow to get us through that situation. And when that happens, our normal daily body functions we don't think about, like our digestion, our heart rate, those things we don't really pay attention to, we just naturally do, don't function normally. And I do have other videos that go into that into more detail. But I really want you to consider that the longer you're in a state of stress, your body's going to stop functioning normally. And when that happens, we start to develop chronic illness. Our immune system is compromised. And I've seen this with employees who used to never take time off, and all of a sudden they're calling out all the time. They're going to the doctor more because they keep getting sick, whether it's a head cold or the flu. It is just becomes chronic, right? And you start to go, what's going on with that person? I've never seen them take so much time off. Well, in conversations with them, and as I investigate a little bit more, right, you find the underlying cause is stress. So the more we're exhausted, the more we're feeling overwhelmed, the more we're starting to question, what am I doing? And we're just feeling burnt out because we don't want to be at work anymore. We're going to have these issues. So if we have chronic health issues develop, right, we're going to the doctor more, and maybe that means more medication. What else happens? That affects your insurance premiums. And as an organization, that can affect what you pay as the employer. If you have 4 or 5 people who all of a sudden develop chronic health conditions, that changes what insurance is willing to cover, and it changes how much they expect individual employees or the organization to pay. And so there is this direct connection. And so the longer we're in a state of stress and we develop illness, we will develop those chronic health conditions. I know I did. We also have the other side when we talk about the bottom line for organizations, and burnout affects patient care, meaning when an employee is constantly stressed or they're starting to get sick and they're just feeling at their end and struggling with those decisions, what happens? They take more time off. And as a therapist, I have seen an escalated number of LOA forms and FMLA forms because of burnout. And I heard somewhere there's a statistic, I think, that there's more people requesting that time off and that FMLA use because of burnout than they are from an actual physical health condition that needs treatment. Burnout needs treatment too. And in fact, we need to try and prevent it. But that's just crazy to me, right? So the more staff that take FMLA and a leave of absence, what does that do? That causes staffing shortages when in fields like the healthcare field, we already have a staff shortage. We already don't have enough people in the field, right? One, people who go into the field, a lot of them start to leave because they're burnt out. I've heard of people who have gone to be farmers or maybe into real estate because of burnout, because of the high patient acuity and caseloads. And so if more people are ill, they're higher acuity patients as well, right? So we have in the healthcare more patients who have higher needs, but then we have caseloads that keep increasing. That's all going to contribute to burnout and contribute to not having enough staff. And so we start to see higher rates of people leaving patients who don't get seen in a timely manner because there's just a shortage. And we have to consider when we have high caseloads, what is the effectiveness of the patient, of the care the patients are getting, right? That patient care is maybe not as quality as it could be or should be because people are overworked. There's also a financial cost of high turnover, right? When there's staffing shortages or people keep quitting. Because as an organization, it costs more to interview, hire, and train new staff than it does to focus on keeping employees who are already there. And so let's kind of shift and talk about what can we do to try to prevent burnout, right? So this is not only just from an organizational financial focus, but it's also from a human perspective and being understanding of individual needs, because we all have different needs and we're all human. But I want you to think about for a minute that investing more into preventing burnout actually saves the company money. So yes, it's an expense, but is it a better expense than the constant turnover or the constant and chronic leave of absent requests because you can't fill those positions? I want you to really think about that. But let's talk about, how does burnout prevention save an organization money, right? Well, it focuses on supporting employee wellness. We know that when employees feel good and they feel supported to be the healthiest they can be, they're going to take care of the customers. They're going to take care of those who you serve. And so if we can put energy into that and maybe money into that, it's going to go a long way. When we talk about burnout prevention, we're not just talking about mental health benefits. Yes, that is absolutely important, and I will advocate for that all the time. And yes, wellness stipends are good. Go get a massage, right? Let me give you money for that as a wellness stipend. Those are awesome. Sometimes those can be short-lived, though. They don't really help at the deeper reasons people get burnt out. And so as an organization, we really need to look at what is going on in our culture that maybe needs to change. Because when we have a healthy culture where people feel seen, heard, and they truly enjoy coming to work, they're going to do a good job when they're at work because it's a positive environment, right? As leaders, we need to stop being negative about people taking time off. It's a benefit for a reason. And when we support that in a positive way, people are going to feel seen and heard, and they're going to want to continue to do the job when they're at work. But when we support that time off is a true break mentally, physically, emotionally, to kind of recover and fill up to keep doing the job. We also need to support those healthy work-life balances. And work-life balance is a hot term these days, but it's also individual. Because what balance looks like for me does not look the same for you. And it's not going to look the same for somebody else. And individually, it's going to change based on the season in life you're in, whether it's the age of your kids or the actual seasons that we go through. So we need to think about how we're supporting people, how we're creating that culture, because yes, potlucks are helpful. Company picnics are great, but we also need to bring in more education, right? Education that it's okay to talk about mental health and emotional intelligence. Like, we need to be promoting mental wellness and physical health, right? Sometimes I question the physical health side because the most common treats people bring in are loaded with sugar. Those don't help our stress levels. And we'll talk about those in another video coming soon. But we have to provide those educations. We want to look at, are you supporting people to grow their skills? Maybe people want to move up in leadership. Are we supporting that and educating them and walking alongside them? Are we doing conflict resolution classes so that people know how to communicate in healthy ways, so that when there is some negative stuff going on, we can talk about it without it ruining the culture? I've seen too many times where organizations go from really focusing on employee wellness and taking care of the staff to all they care about is data and numbers, and people are just a number, and things fall apart. And I really, really want to see that start to shift again, because it takes all of us to do our jobs to make things better. So I want to remind you that burnout prevention, I want you to think of it as an investment versus just an expense. Because when you show that your employees that you care and you put their health first, it will lead to, say, better patient outcomes, better customer service, because employees who are taken care of will do 110% to take care of the customer or the patient. Burnout prevention does improve retention because people feel seen. They feel heard that, oh, my needs are going to be taken care of. I'm not just speaking to a blank wall. And again, it's going to aid in the decrease of leave of absence and FMLA use, which also decreases health insurance costs, right? When people are healthy, they go to the doctor less. They need less prescriptions. All of that is going to affect that bottom line. And in the end, it's going to help you build those sustainable, healthy, and collaborative cultures that you want, that's going to help your organization thrive. So I'm curious to know if you have found one trick you use in your organization that really helps people feel cared about, helps build that healthy culture. Drop it below.